Welcome back. I want to talk a little bit about my trip. And I went to Morocco. That was my first stop. And the music that we just heard was Arabic music. And in Morocco, there are many, many brotherhoods of Sufi Muslims. And I was really blessed to connect with quite a few of them. And I was playing my bowls and doing activations at different places. And there's a place, a town called Tafraout, kind of in the south part of Morocco, and it looked so much like Sedona. And I was there in March for a month, and I was there at the equinox doing ceremony in the rocks there. It was so wonderful. And I was there with a girlfriend, and we went up to a town called Essaouira that's on the coast, a little more open than a lot of the towns, not quite so conservative. And in this place, the different places that I stayed, I played the bowls, and people would just come in and show up in the places that I was playing. And what was so powerful about being in Morocco and playing the bowls is that there's a language barrier. They spoke Arabic, and some spoke English. And the place that I stayed was owned by a dentist who just decided to come in, and no one had ever experienced the bowls or really a lot of other ways of thinking. They don't do therapy. I mean, there are therapists, but not very many do therapy. And when I played the first time, there were 3 people there, 2 young men and this dentist. And when I finished, 2 of them said, well, what is this? Is this magic? Why did I have these feelings going through my body? And why does my heart feel different than it did before you played? They were very, very open in discussing it. And I thought about it for a minute and said, well, I guess it's kind of a magic. There's no words. There's no thought projections. There's just the vibrational frequency going into their bodies. And then I explained the science of the crystal bowls. I brought 7 alchemy bowls with me. And I played again, and a few more people were there. And the dentist, again, really, he was really open because he's very educated and wanting to understand his feelings. And he told me that he would go to this little town, in the desert. And in this town, there was a family that he worked for free on, and they had nothing. And he said they have absolutely nothing. They're as poor as dirt. That's all they have. They have a house, but it has dirt floors, and they just scrape by. And he said, they're so happy. And he said that I'm not happy. I have a bed and breakfast, I have an apartment, I have a house, and I have a business, and I have all these things. And he's from Lebanese, living in Essaouira. But I'm not happy. But when I'm with these people, I'm happy. And he wanted to understand why that was. And so we had a conversation about letting go of attachment. And when he was finished with the session, the sound session, he said that for the first time he felt this complete peace and this happiness. And it didn't come from trying. It just came from being with the sound. So that was really powerful. And over the time I was there with the young people, we would talk, and I would explain how, for me, I've had these amazing things happen where I could put my hand on stones and I can hear and see. And just by opening up to these other aspects of myself, it allowed the young people to start talking about their own experiences. And one young man who's like about 32, is a really amazing musician, and he started saying how he would put his hands on trees when he was younger, and things would start happening to him, and he would hear things and see things. And he told someone in his family about this, and I don't know if it was his mother or father, but immediately they said, don't tell anyone. You don't want anyone to know this. So he stopped doing it and felt really suppressed by that. Another man who actually I did a recording with, who's an incredible Sufi singer, sings in the mosques. We did a bowl and Sufi music, and he sang to Rumi. Expressed how he was very aware of these dreams that he was having, and he knew they were past life dreams, but he couldn't talk to anyone because they don't believe in that. So he recognized himself in the dreams, and he was really working on how he could bring that into this life, but he had no one to talk to. And his girlfriend was sitting there looking at him like, how come you never told me that? So the fear of reprisal and the fear of judgment is so strong in, it's been strong in our culture, and it's stronger in other cultures even than ours. And I felt so blessed that we have the freedom to speak with each other or to go to therapists and say these things that are going on. And you could really feel how suppressed they are and how they're open in so many ways. But in the communicating about what's going on in the inner world, a lot of them don't have that freedom. And so being there really allowed these people to communicate with each other and to communicate with me. And there's a whole nother level, too, of people who really have had all these actually galactic experiences out in the desert. And one man who's now a friend of mine, when he was very young, he lived outside of Tafraut in the desert. And his grandfather was a healer, and his grandfather could look at a picture and tell you what was going on with the person and help them. But he didn't pass it on to his son. Like the man I was knowing was his grandson, and his father didn't want to have anything to do with it, and so really stopped him from even talking about these experiences that the grandfather had. Well, my friend had all these experiences too and suppressed them. And when we played the bowls, he was there for 5 different sessions. By the time we were done, he was remembering all these different things and was trying to place them in a framework. And, we just talked and allowed him to bring it up and to see that these experiences are fine. It's okay to have them and to be able to talk about them, but it's just with a person that can listen. It was developed in Morocco and used for lilas, and that's trance. It's where it goes from 6 to 12 hours, and the music puts you into a trance for healing. And the men play the gembre and the stringed instruments, and the women play the percussion. And the event is called a lila, and I was very blessed to meet a group of women that are doing lila for the community. And I was taken to a center for music therapy, and I had met this woman, and they did a 2-hour example of what it's about. And you could really see how trance music was brought from Morocco to London. It was brought by a musician who heard it and experienced it, and the movements that they do are exactly how we dance, and that all of these movements were brought over as well. So I'm going to play 2 or 3 little pieces so you can experience the percussion, and these are just the women, and they're playing all different little percussive instruments. One of them even has glasses on a silver tray, and she's using the glasses as a percussive instrument. So in the lila, women wear different colors, and each color has a different rhythm. They use 7 colors and 7 incenses and all these different rhythms. So this is the color black. So hold on just a second here. I'm going to turn. That is the rhythm for the color black, and this one is the rhythm for the color red. So when you're doing the dance, you're swinging your arms and you're swinging your head, and they have this beautiful little hat on that has a long tassel, and you're swinging that around. And you can see, if you got up right now and we're dancing to this music, how if you did this for 6, 7, 8, 10 hours, you would definitely go into a trance. So the next one is the color yellow, and it's completely different. And in this one, they put a scarf over her head so she could stay really inside while she's doing this. As you can hear, there's also a call and response. Someone is saying the line, it's just like chanting like kirtan. So the rhythmic sound, the repetition really creates this space to go inside into a trance. You even can go down on all fours and rock back and forth, and whatever is going to get you into that place. And there is a main woman who's like a channel who can see where everyone is and what they need and how long they need to go. So it's really, really a powerful experience, and I felt really blessed to, have a 2-hour experience there as well. And for myself, then I was given the gift of being able to play the bowls for them and use the tuning forks on all of them, and they all laid on the floor. They were really open to experiencing something else, and so each one of them had something happen to open their hearts, or a couple of them had been sick and really felt some shift. So it was just lovely. So it's so nice to be back, and my partner Marc-Andre and I took this long journey to Europe. And when we began the show, I was talking about forgiveness. And one of the places that we went was Ireland. And Ireland was so incredible. I had no idea how powerful it was going to be for me. And it was very spontaneous. We thought we were going, and we went, and we were doing sacred sites, and we met a woman just before we left named Mara, who's from Ireland. And she took us on this incredible journey. And at a certain point, we went all through the south, and at a certain point, we decided it was time to go north. And we thought we were going to go to Scotland, right? Hold on, let me put you on. We were going to go to Scotland, but Scotland just seemed too far away, didn't it?
Well, just the weather, too, was... we were being challenged by cooler breezes, and we seemed to want to gravitate more towards staying in Ireland, which is absolutely reminds us so much of Kauai. Just rainbows, and the people are very, very open-hearted and sweet. I think Scotland is just another time, but
right.
Look forward to that, another trip.
So we decided to go north and into Northern Ireland, and our friend wasn't ready to go, so we went on our own. And it was quite fascinating because the north completely shifts. I mean, if you've been there, you know that the roads are better. The amenities are better, and you can see that there's definitely more funding in the north, and the north is part of the United Kingdom, so it has the support of the Queen and England. And as we moved into these places, the energy was really different. We went to this place called Derry, which is sometimes Derry and sometimes Londonderry. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, depending on, it's a kind of a city that there seems to be a lot of separation and conflict that still exists, and people refer to it as Londonderry if they're in support of the Crown and the Queen, and if they're more true Ireland
Republic.
Yeah, then they refer to just as Derry, and we weren't really aware of how much separation there was until kind of after we had left, and there's still quite a bit of conflict there and separation, and it's just interesting to see how so many years later, how these ideas, and they're still passed on to different generations, even in schools through songs, and we were just kind of surprised that was still existent and still so prevalent.
And interesting enough, when you talk to people in the South, in the Republic, they don't really feel a connection to Northern Ireland, to the war that was there. They call it the Trouble. It's not really a war, but civil strife of the 60s. And even though maybe they have friends up there and they might go there, it's not strong for them in a lot of the places in Southern Ireland, and they don't understand why it's still happening. And that was challenging for us also. And so as we went further north, we were at this place called the Giant's Causeway, which is this incredible site of hexagonal stones on the coast that are just stacked from 6 inches tall to 100 feet tall. It's definitely a wonder, in the world, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's a UNESCO protected site, and it's this geological phenomenon. It's like the sacred geometry of those shapes that meets the rocks and these pillars. I think there's only one other place in the world that exists. It's in northern in Scotland. It was definitely beautiful. If you ever have a chance to see and experience it,
it was definitely
wonder.
A place where we experienced all different kinds of nature energies that we hadn't, like the energy of giants, definitely, and these old worlds, felt very, very just beyond the veil for us, because we were playing the bowls and we were doing meditations and activations while we were there, so it was quite powerful. And then this woman that we were staying at her B&B heard what we were doing, and she invited us to connect with an organization called Corrie Mila. And Corrie Mila has 2 locations, one in northern, the very north part just past Giant's Causeway, and one in Belfast. So we just happened to be there on a Sunday and found our way to it, and they had just finished having a big party, a children's party there. And they gave us a tour, and it's an incredible place where they've been doing mediation work since like 65, right? Or 64?
Yeah, it's a center where they're very much committed to peace, and they bring in children from different communities just to share and to have understanding and to realize that, regardless of political views or religious views, that everyone's the same. We're all just really the same people. We all love our children, and we want peace and harmony in our lives. And this center is very, very progressive. And I think the Dalai Lama had visited it, and we were just really happy to see that a place like this existed. And we think, wow, it'd be interesting that we could create a space like that on Kauai. It would be definitely a place to heal and to teach different community leaders about methods for resolving conflict and certainly coming to a place of forgiveness.
And this place was very blessed. During the time of the Troubles, as they call it, there was nowhere for families to go, and the government, the people that created this, were funded by the government to help families. If they didn't have a place to go, they were able to go there and rest. And even school children are brought in there to learn about how to resolve conflict. So they're doing an incredible job. So if you want to know more about them, excuse me, it's Corry, CORRYMEELA think.org, that or .com. And so we got to experience that and see the good work of this place. And you can go there, actually. You can take a group there and you can use their facilities. They have incredible facilities that are about a mile from the ocean and overlook the sea there. It's really wonderful, and really loving people donating their time. And so they do accept donations, and they're just amazing beings. So then we drove south from the most northern part and drove into Belfast, and that was really quite amazing. It for both of us, the energy shifted, and it felt a lot more suppressed than I thought it was going to be. I had no idea what it was going to be like in Belfast. I just knew that when you're in the South and you talk about going there, people kind of change. They're not like, oh, it's a great city and, you should go there. They're kind of like, wow, we don't really know what's happening in Belfast.
Yeah, some of the local people just warned us, be careful and just tread lightly in a sense. And I had never really been to any areas of fairly recent war zones or conflict zones, and just to see that it still exists and there still is separation. There is a wall that separates the two sides, and
there's a fence that separates these two towns,
right.
And it goes up 20 feet with barbed wire on the top. And there's a door that they close at 7:30 at night, and on the weekends.
Yes, I guess they just figure for their own safety and their own peace of mind that they keep this large door opening locked and closed, and then they open it up. It's really interesting to see this and how people still choose to live in that separation even all these years later. There is some good projects, though. There's some people that we had met, that Taj had met, this fellow in Malta that was leading children on walks.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was helping young people because what he was seeing actually in Derry, he lived in Derry, he was seeing that some of the young people are trying to identify themselves with groups. And there's not really a whole lot of groups to identify themselves, and he was starting to see them shift into more of a negative spin of separation. And so he was volunteering with different groups to help these young people look and see that there's more than just trying to pick a side and to go into service instead. The other thing that was really big is we stayed in a place on Botanical Street, and the young woman who was the concierge there, she was so open, and she was from Belfast, but she was from the country, and she didn't really get why there was still this separation going on, why people were still telling old stories to their children and creating a wall between the two different sides. And it was still very, very much about religion, which kind of felt like that was just the facade for a political undercurrent.
Yeah, it's interesting because, the conflict, they more or less believe in the same God, and you think to yourself, why is there so much conflict in this area? And we were reading in the newspaper one day, we went to the university to go just get a feel of the pulse of the people there. And we're reading, and there was the newspaper wrote an article about it was a massacre that happened 25 years prior, and that one of the parties had, I think they erected a flag to support that action that happened when 25 people got killed. And I was just surprised that, and it caused certainly more ideas of separation and conflict, and just brought up bad memories from the past. And I was just surprised that the newspaper would still print something like that And I mean, I guess it's their job to report things. And on the other side, I mean, when does it stop, or when do people stop and there can be a shift in consciousness to get to that place of forgiveness? It was kind of surprising to me to read about that in the newspaper.
So the reason we're even bringing this up right now on the show is that there are places on the planet that we're aware of, right? We read about them in the newspaper, but there's places that we're not. Like, I did not know that there was still so much going on there, and that because of who we are on this island and our ability to really be in that state of love and work with people and energies, what I wanted to see, if everyone listening would just imagine for a moment Ireland, Northern Ireland, and just if you can, it's off. If you're looking at the United Kingdom, it's an island off to the left of England, and you have to take a ferry to it. It's not connected. And if you can just, let's make a big circle. Imagine all of us listening in a big circle, holding hands, and all of the people that we're connected to behind us, and everyone sending love right into the middle of this circle, there's a column of light right in the middle of the circle, and filling that column of light with all our love and our blessings and our thoughts of hope for the future, so that people can feel like they're enough, who they are, what they believe, and it doesn't need to be put upon anyone else. That we can honor each other in that state of love. And then let's just send it like a big column of light that you just see over Ireland, coming from out into the universe, all the way in, touching every person, penetrating into the land, because the land needs as much love as the people. I mean, Gaia is so powerful, and for us to send our love as well, to be in communion with Gaia and everything that she's been doing to support all those people for all these years.